Hi, this is Eva for Once Upon a Timeline. Welcome to Midnight Mandela. How's everybody doing? Hopefully the sound is loud enough. I was kind of checking it, and it's like the little bar graph thing doesn't look like it's going as high as it usually does, but then when I check the settings, they're still the same, so I'm not sure what's going on. I don't think it'll be too bad, but just let me know if it's too quiet again. I'll just crank it up more, I guess, if that happens. But I try to keep the settings the same, so that people won't have one video like way louder than another. It's like really irritating, but what can you do? So Shari, you said you had a weird thing where you woke up and everything was in red lights. That would be pretty bizarre. General Sorrow said the same thing happened to him, but he was drunk. So that's different. I have a friend who tells me, she told me, I don't know if this version of her does it, but one version of her told me that when she gets really angry, she actually sees everything in the color red. So I always thought that whole saying, the seeing red, I just thought it was saying, but apparently some people actually get so angry that everything looks red, which I've never experienced anything like that. Even when I hit my head, I had tunnel vision, but the colors were normal. They might be a little fuzzy around the edges, but I have not experienced that, so I don't know how common it is. People are talking about opal. Okay, so I can tell you my timeline since I do, like, hunting for stones and stuff. So first, when you talk about opal, there's two kinds. The precious kind, which is the kind that most people are familiar with, has that, like, schiller, opalescent, like fire. So when you turn it, different colors, like rainbowy sort of colors, usually kind of a little bluish colors, are in there. So you'll kind of shift it and you'll see the colors from different angles. And that's the precious opal that costs the boatload of dinero, lots of money. And so usually that comes out of Australia. It's the most famous place. And I can't swear I knew every other place it came out of. And then there's common opal, and that's just like, it's the same material with all the same characteristics. It just doesn't have the fire. It doesn't have that chiller. So it'll just be like green colored or something. So there's a spot that we would visit that had opal, but it was common, and it was like a kind of a custard, whitish custard, little bit greenish hints in it, color, and then it had some brown dendritic lines. So it wasn't like super valuable, but the dendritic lines were cool because it kind of, had that like weird spider webby look. So that stuff is not, without value, but it would not be considered precious. So there was opal in the United States, but I don't know of any precious opal. I think I've heard of a few mines out in the boonies. Now, the other problem with opal is that a lot of it is not stable. So say you dig down in a mine and you pull up your beautiful opal and it has fire and it's pretty, and then it just cracks up. So there were a couple mines in the United States where you could dig up precious opal, but then you had to float it in water forever or it would crack on you. Now, every once in a blue moon, someone say, I didn't float it water, it still didn't crack. Who knows? But that place was known. And so that's why, again, that opal wasn't super valuable, just because it would just crumble on you. When the opal's kind of weird that way, where it gets, over time, it will sometimes just fail. It'll like get dry and it'll crack up. And there's this whole stuff you're supposed to do to try to preserve your opal a little better. And then you'll get some pieces, they'll just last your lifetime and there'll be no problem. So black opal, I don't know where you can get that. I mean, I imagine, I have not heard of black opal, but I wouldn't be shocked if that was out there, especially in the current timeline. So one thing I did notice was when I was more heavily involved in the gemstone field, is that there would be new finds, like multiple new finds and new stuff coming out every year. It was crazy how many new things they would find, like pretty amazing stuff. And so now when I look back on it, I do have to wonder how much that was, kind of Mandela related. But they would say they're new finds, so It's like one of them is what was that stuff? I can't remember the name. Oh, I don't remember the name, but there's like one of those ones that it's not a geode, but it's like a geode, and it has the brown crystals in it. And first there would just be little pieces, and then we get the bigger. And now there's like ones the size of like 10 feet tall that have always been there. Now I'm quite sure those are a Mandela, because the ones that are like 10 feet tall and crack open on the ocean there where I've had them on before, it's not like they just found those. So those went like backward in time and they got bigger. So most likely some of the other stuff is also Mandela. Some are all, or, you know, the whole reality is a Mandela. I don't know. Pearls are another weird one, because when I was a kid, it was $1 bajillion for one pearl, and they'd have to crack open 1 million oysters, and they can't be farmed. And then suddenly, supposedly, the Chinese figured out how to farm them, and the price came down. And now, literally, you can get like a real pearl for like 20 cents. You know, I mean, like. So one thing they do is they put a little ball of like, I think it's plastic. They stuff it into the clam, and then the clam coats it with some of the nacre, they call it, which is that clam, shiny clam material that makes up pearls. And so a lot of those 20-cent ones, they've just got plastic inside and then a coating of the nacre that the clam laid down. But still, I mean, it's almost like not even worth having. I mean, I would never spend money for expensive pearls because the price is like dropped into the garbage can overall. Now, there's some places that still charge a lot for them, but they just don't have the value that they once had. Pink pearl. So, yeah, and there's more and more weird colors coming out, and they're supposed to be natural, and I don't even know. What was hardest? So, opal, I think opal has like a 6 or something. It's not super soft, but what it is brittle. It's super, super brittle. So you can get, like, for instance, jade and glass have the same proximate Mohs hardness, but you drop something on the glass on the ground and it'll totally break, and you drop jade on the ground and it probably won't, because jade has an interlockingness that makes it like tough. So it's not just like the stabbing force, but how easy it shatters. So jade does not shatter easy, glass shatters easy, and opal shatters easy. And I don't think it's actually that much softer, but it just like, though, if it dries out, it just like breaks apart. It just shatters. And that's one of the problems we had even with those fancy ones, where those greenish ones with the brown dead didricks, is they would look real nice, but the outer layer would kind of crumble off sometimes. So you'd have a really nice one. You're like, oh, this one's styling, and then a chunk would come off. Still, there was like a lot out there, so I still have some of that there, and a lot of them are probably still good. It's probably actually good to just take them and like store them for a couple years until you see which ones are going to crumble, and then cut the non-crumbled ones. And that's my excuse for having not started on them yet. Keep your opals in oil or they will crack. They may. I mean, that is one of the things they recommend, or humidity control or whatever. But like I said, I've had ones where I just didn't, and they're fine. But you're rolling the dice on that. And it depends on, like, certain mines are known for their stability and certain aren't. And my opals might break in 200 years, but I'll be dead and I don't care. And they're not $1 billion pieces, so. You can Google search the Metro Blue Line, Long Beach to downtown LA to get 2 maps. One with no sharp left turn that now exists. Residue. Metro. Actually, I got some map stuff I'm going to look at. Oh, yeah, let me put the live chat on. So I think the live chat, it just lets everything in. Whereas the other one, like, I don't know, they might screen out some of the comments. And a lot of times they scream out harmless comments. So opals are silicon-based crystals. Yeah, so like there's a lot of gemstones that are silica-based. You've got quartz, you've got opal, let's see, agate also. And they all act different. Like quartz is more crumbly than agate. Agate tends to be the strongest as far as toughness. And then you got opals that shatter very easily. I'm sure there's a bunch more too. I'm just really not thinking of it right now. Okay, so I don't know if you heard, but there was like epic rains like over the weekend. Like epic rains. It was actually way more rain than the supposed hurricane that came through last year, which was kind of a nothing burger. But we didn't have a lot of wind, but we had tons of rains. They actually had to close the two major freeways around here, and some areas had cars like floating down the street like little Lego bricks or something. And so it kind of got me looking at our map for the area. Now, I've known this area has been changing. This area, Coronado used to be an island, and if you look on here, there's still restaurants called Coronado Island. And it used to just have this one bridge here. This bridge used to go straight into the island, Voosh. It didn't have this weird turn. Like, why wouldn't they just put one here or put it like that? But it's just weird. It goes like that and then it turns around. It's something about how this has shifted, made this, like, this is bent around. It's turned sideways. The bridge is turned. There's a weird story now behind this bridge that I've covered before that, it was something about funding, like there was some loophole where they actually could get more funding if they made the bridge longer, so they did a stupid loop. That I don't know if that story's still there, but I've had it on before and it was there last time. And that was the explanation for why there's this bizarre, inefficient bend in the bridge. But okay, so that bridge used to be the only way on, and then this thing kind of showed up here, which is called the Silver Strand. A lot of people I've talked to do not recall this. This strand has been stretching and stretching. It was really only like this long and extremely thin when it first came in. And now we have these big like bumps. I don't even know what all's on. Okay, so there's roads on there. And so it's like filling in. I don't know what the heck, but Coronado Island is a... And then they had a funny word for it where it wasn't an island. It was a peninsular island or something. So... this is getting longer and longer. The port here, we used to have a kind of a little meh of a port, but our port is growing and growing and growing. So we have a style in port now. I noticed this top area has been closing up a little. I don't know if it's protecting the main area more. So what's new now is here. I don't remember this green stuff. This end thing just keeps growing out. Like, it's just like a dripping stalactite of stuff. So there was a lot of flooding during the storm, and that kind of got me to look. The flooding was right through here. It was, I think it was around here. Like it was, but they had word another like, oh, there was a bunch of flooding in Mountain View, and I'm like, Mountain View, that's in Northern California. And then, so the guy I'm renting a room to, he actually is doing work and helping out Red Cross. And it's funny because I get to hear all the screw-ups and mess that Red Cross is. And there's all these stories. But the main thing is that he never heard of Mountain View. And there was this place called South Crest. Never heard of South Crest. And I'm looking at this, I'm like, what is this? Oh my gosh. So there's been a lot of changes around here. And one of the reasons I wanted to bring it up is because I've noticed in the past there's a bit of a pattern with like new areas kind of rolling into the reality with with some kind of catastrophe. Like there was a bunch of islands that I never even heard of them. And then everything on the island was destroyed by this hurricane. I'm like, what is that island even? I've never even heard of it. So I'm wondering, I'm definitely not positive, but I'm kind of wondering if that's the case here. This is perhaps a new territory. None of us have ever heard of Mountain View in this area. I've never heard of South Crest. There's a lot of new stuff going on all around here as far as alterations in this area. And so this South Crest and Mountain View were apparently heavily flooded by the storm. And so we got like 3 inches in 3 hours, which is a lot for us because our we're not designed for that. You know, we just don't have the drainage for that. And the desert kind of gets kind of this hard cover, and the rain doesn't sink in, and then we're just not prepared for that kind of rain. So, but it's just interesting again that these areas that I've never heard of were really hard hit. Like they had water up to 7, 8, 9 feet, I think, briefly, and then it went back down. And the story that the Red Cross is saying is that they had storm drains were all clogged up with debris and hadn't been cleared out for many, many years, and that's why it flooded. So, yeah, I don't know. So, like, if the storm drains and diversion channels had been properly functional, that should not have happened. But basically, just all the water came oozing down and just backed up because it couldn't get back out of the area because their drainage was not operational. Anyway, but my point was just this. Kind of keep an eye out for that pattern. It really does look like if you see an area of disaster, have you heard of it? Should you have heard of it? Is the area shifty? Think about that a tad is all. So also the other thing I saw when I zoomed in here, because I was checking out this area, I'm like, what is this area? What the heck is this? Sweetwater River. I do not know of this thing they speak. 54 used to just come down to the 5. But now it splits into this weird thing with the freeways, and there's this fat river. It looks like it's going to become some kind of a ship canalway or something. I'm not sure, but it's very, very fat and straight. And I've noticed that a lot of these areas that were just like little skinny rivers, maybe it was a little skinny river before, so I just never really thought of it. Like, you know, but it's so fat now. So the freeway splits weird. I've not seen this before. This is very weird. So we had a nice port where we didn't have, it looks like there's some docking areas in here. We didn't have this before. I don't know what's going on here. I actually came down to this area like a month ago, and I was so confused. Like I was driving around going, what is all this crap? But I hadn't really looked on the map. You know, I was just basically going one road at a time, and I didn't like pan back on the phone function and actually see. But now I can see why I was so massively confused, because all of this is just bizarre. And it may not be totally new, but I don't think it's super old either, especially that bit right there. These are looking nice. We're gonna have a styling port because we're growing one. We're literally growing a port. It's very nice. Here's another area, this Mission Bay. It's just so much more going on in here. This was not all like this. I mean, it's crazy. All these little islands and stuff. There was just one island, and it wasn't this big. Now there's this one. That was crazy. The other thing that So I'm using MapQuest. I find MapQuest is really nice because it just delineates the waterways and the colors really nice. So this is another one that just keeps getting me for my area is Lake Hodges. So, you know, I live up in this area, so I go to Lake Hodges. So Lake Hodges used to be like a lake. So it was very lakey right here. And like kind of right here. So this is interesting. So the main lake was basically here. And this area here didn't even really fill all the time. You know, like there was a little kind of a thing that just kind of barely went under the freeway. And sometimes it would be totally dry. And sometimes there'd be water in it. And it would just go back and forth. And it was interesting because they spent a bunch of money, you know, I don't even know, like who's they? Somebody spent a bunch of money to put this bridge across here. It's a walking bridge. It's just for walking. And by the time they finished, the water was all dried up. So you just walk over like nothing. And you just walk over like a kind of area with a lot of weeds. And I'm like, this is stupid. But then it's not stupid now because I don't think that's been dry maybe ever now because the water goes way over here. It was never out all. The fat area was not on this side of the 15. So And then this area is just inflated, and that's how it is on the map. And this is huge now. It's tiny, tiny, tiny. So yeah. Anyway, that's my point. The waterways, they're crazy. You can see there's a lot. These are getting fat in here. So we used to have these 3 main water, like, what do you call it? Lagoons. That's the word. 1, 2, 3. That was it. But we still have those. But we've got all this going on. There's lagoons. These lagoons have gotten way bigger, for starters. They didn't used to go far past this freeway. Now we've got stuff starting up over in here that we didn't have, like these little lagoons. This river's getting fat. This one here. So these were areas that would just have like a little stinky creek that you just wade, across up to your knees or something. And that's just, it's changing. It's getting so wide now. So then I was kind of looking. Salton Sea is huge. Look at Salton Sea's got rivers now. That's interesting. Actually, I have not seen these before. What are they even calling it? Rivers. It doesn't say. Okay, so Salton Sea's got rivers. 1, 2, 3 main ones. A bunch of little ones. Interesting. But I kind of wanted to look at, where is it? Salt Lake. I think I've had this on before. Was that the shape for you guys? I think it's even changed since last time I looked. With this pinched off area here. With all these islands. White Rock Bay. Why is that one green and these aren't? Is it because it's national forest or something? Antelope Island, Stansbury Island. There's these ones here. There's 2 here. So I do remember there being kind of a dry area in the middle, but they said it was because, the lake is drying up and blah, blah, blah. So now what is it on the map? It's on the map, and it's permanent enough to be on the map. But yeah, I don't remember this pinched off business. And I don't think that was even that badly weird shaped last time I looked at it. So the last thing I was looking at was here. I cover this a lot, but this island here that slammed into the... So in this one, you can see more that there's still a fair amount of river space in between it and the mainland, but in a lot of maps it really looks like it's combined with the mainland, but it kind of gouged into it used to be out here in the ocean, and it's kind of docked with the mainland. And again, I'm seeing more stuff coming down here, so it's waterways, many waterways coming down. So just so many waterways. Almost literally, I don't know of any waterways that got any smaller. And even though you'll hear that they're drying up, oh no, it's drying up, but you look on the map, it's actually bigger than you remember. So again, it like here, this has, oh my gosh, this has opened up so much. This was just a river when I first drew. This is one of the areas I drew out 7 years ago, and it was just one river, and now it's split open like this. And the other thing is, let's just appreciate how big Hudson Bay has gotten. And this area above it, does it have its own name yet? Anyway, this is Hudson. Actually, that looks like some kind of a dude, like, jumping on one of those balloon hoppity hops. Look, there's his head, there's an eye, there's his arm sticking out, and there's his feet. I just saw that. But anyway, that shape wasn't like that. And I don't think this round island was in there. I'm going to have to look at my old drawing, but I don't remember any kind of evenly round island right here. This was there. This shape, yes. I actually spent a lot of time drawing all these effing shapes and trying to get them right. I didn't want to trace it because I'd heard that tracings change with the Mandela, so I wanted to draw it freehand, but really, really accurately. And this wasn't on there. I would have been like, oh, goody, an easy shape, but no, it wasn't there. So Hudson's just getting bigger, bigger, bigger. And now that I see the Hoppity Man, I can't unsee the Hoppity Man. This is weird. So there's a giant ball there, and if I zoom out once, his eye disappears. Watch this. Boink. Eye disappears. A whole bunch of stuff shows up. Look, there's this also disappears. Boink. There's a whole bunch here that disappears when I zoom out. All of that disappears. You know, I wonder if it means anything. Are those like new? Will they come back? They don't come back. Oh, more disappears. Between here. Wait. Oh, look at how much disappears. It won't let me go down. See if I can get rid of that. A whole bunch disappears right here. Look at this. Arrgh. Yep. Crazy Town. So, yeah, I don't know. Crappy programming. Still interesting. However you want to look at it. You know, I never did find out what happened to Shari's weird red lights. You know, it's probably back like 100 miles in here. So my mouse is being kind of whiny here. Come on. Look, it's not working right. I thought, okay, I'm closing MapQuest. Maybe that's the problem. Oh, yeah, I got a haircut, in case you're asking. Yeah, I did. I went on, what was that, Tuesday? So that night, when it was raining really hard on Monday night, and then I went into my aerobics class, and this girl's like, oh, I got a flat tire. And I was thinking, well, my pressure light came on, but I have this slow leak in one of the tires. So I'm like, I was probably just that. I came out, I had a flat tire. So it's 2 flat tires per class. So I inflated it, and I went to work, and then Dave came and patched it for me in the morning. So that's what my exciting life is, that I got a flat tire. It looked like I ran over some little thin metal thing. So we don't really know what it was. All right. Okay, that's gone. Let me see if this will work now. See, it's terrible. It's not working. I don't know if it's my computer. All right, so that's back to the beginning. And I was not drunk. Sorry. I don't know, you know, I have been drunk before, not super often, but I never saw any weird lights. I just was stupid, like normal drunk, stupid people. Stupid and loud. And if I get really drunk, I get quiet because talking is too hard. My cat came over to me in my face, and the red light was around him too. That's weird. The only time I've ever seen really weird stuff is I had a really bad fever. Like long ago, I got a really bad flu. And I was sick for a long time. And I woke up once and I saw octagons. There was an octagon pattern over everything. It was really pretty too. And I kept looking at it, but I was so tired that I was like, oh, I gotta go back to sleep. Even if there's cool octagons, I just couldn't stay awake. You know what? I don't have any lipstick on. I drank some punch, and it kind of sticks on my lips, and then this webcam just makes everything look really red. I think there's some kind of built-in filter, because it's a really cheap webcam. It's not supposed to have any functionality, but it turns things a little bit red, and it kind of removes a few wrinkles, and it makes like... But see, like, it's not enough that if I cover this, you don't see... I'm assuming you don't. Let me actually check, because I don't know if I've ever checked that. So when there's real filters, if I cover it, you would see, like, lips on there, right? But it doesn't do that, so I'm not sure, like, how it's actually working, but... You can't see it, but I just pulled up my OBS to see how I looked in the OBS. So one of the reasons this looks good is because the camera sort of makes all the colors go together. I don't know how to describe it. So I had got another webcam, and that one makes me look greenish and sickly. Like when they mess with Joe Rogan's image to make him look sickly, that's how I look. So I'm like, okay, I will go with the reddish one. I think part of it is I've got these weird overhead lights here, and they kind of have a weird reddish cast to them, and I think the cameras are having trouble dealing with it. But it's expensive, giant bulbs all screwed in. There's like 15 of them. It would be like a couple $100 to replace them, so that's not happening. Australia was the only place for opal, and it was normally white. So I did not know of any place in the United States that had like good opal that was stable. So I can agree with you on that one. There's a few mines, but like I said, it was unstable stuff, and you had to float it in water. Oh, is it oxygen? I never really looked into it so much, but they just said that it gets dried out. I wonder if you can preserve them in clear resin. I have not really looked into it. Possibly. Just like put a thin layer of the resin over, maybe. Yeah, there's those giant big crystals in Mexico showed up, and I noticed that there's more and more caverns of those. You know, when they first came out, they were like, oh, you know, we don't know how long these will last for, and we'll probably have to close it up in a couple of years. But and of course the reality is the reverse, that there's first of all, when they first went in there, they had to have like this huge almost space suit because it was too hot, and then now it's less hot and they never needed the giant space suit, and they didn't, you know, so like it's all going backwards. They said that it was going away, but actually it's coming. It's zooming in to the reality. Now we had planes in Abraham Lincoln time. Oh, so we had airships in Lincoln's time. Seriously? 1863. Let's see. When did... I should cover that one next. When did USA get airships? 1933. All right, that sounds like it's a fancy one, though. It's Army airships. Current airships. I'm going to see, why don't we see blimps hardly anymore? The technology of airplanes and helicopters continued to advance, and they became more popular. Why? What's the problem with airships? Decline of airships was then accelerated after a number of crashes, like the Hindenburg. So they're not giving me a reason why regular planes are preferred. Now, if you're going for speed, it makes sense. But what about cost? Let's see. Still used when the ability to hover for a time was outweighed the need for speed and maneuverability. And were used for advertising. The cost, okay, the huge cost it takes to build and run them. They're very expensive to build and very expensive to fly. Airships require a large amount of helium, which can cost up to $100,000 for one trip. Okay, well, that explains it. I would have thought that they didn't, don't they just keep the helium in there? The cost of helium keeps going up due to a worldwide helium shortage. I would have thought that they could just keep the same helium in there, and then, you know, I kind of assumed once they filled them, they just stayed filled, you know, but okay. I guess you're going to have to come down somehow, so you have to release some, but... Okay, wait, so I'm getting off track here. History of... Let's try history of airships. How about airships wiki? Airships. (1670), the Jesuit father Francisco Lana de Terzi, sometimes referred to as the father of aeronautics. Never heard of him. Published a description of an aerial ship. It was hypothetical. Okay. Jesuit priest. What's up with all the Jesuits now invented everything? Bartholomew de Guzmão made a hot air balloon, 1709, before an astonished Portuguese court. The balloon caught fire without leaving the ground, but in a second demonstration it rose to 95 meters in height. Made out of thick brown paper. Okay, 19th century, trying to add propulsion. 1852, Henry Giffard became the first person to make an engine-powered flight when he flew 17 miles in a steam-powered airship in 1852. All right, this is the 1852 beast. Okay, so what are you just kind of dangling here on this little thingy? I guess you just sit on this. Don't be afraid of heights. Wait. All right, go back. 1872. It's a little nicer. These ones always get me because I just don't think that was like a thing in my timeline where they're docking on these towers. They used to dock on the ground. That was it. Now, it makes sense. It makes sense to do this because then you don't have to figure out how to get it up and down. You can just stay at your height and putter along. So maybe you save, like you don't have to pump out helium or whatever. You can stay at the same height, poke along, dock, and then poke along. So then all you need is the fuel to go forward and backwards. All right, well, yeah, I'm suspicious of it. Unfortunately, I didn't really know the history of airships, but I'm pretty sure they didn't have them, like, during the Civil War and stuff. So if we start seeing them in the United States during the Civil War, you're going to know something's a little bit off. I was looking into getting my diamond certified by GLA in Carlsbad, but it's over 5K for my sizes. Yeah, I'm not really sure how accurate they really are. It's not. Is it GLA or is it another GLA? That I know there's that huge diamond grading company. They had a huge scandal a while back because it turns out they were taking money under the table to falsely grade gemstones. So that was what, 10 years ago or something? It was a while ago. That was right around the time when the 2008 collapse. It was right near in there. It might have been about 2010. They get a lot of, I'll tell you, they just like a lot of people, like a lot of rich people's kids don't really want a regular job and they end up going there and they're all catty and they don't want to work. And it's like, I don't know. I just got a real bad attitude about that company. They're probably all the diamond grading businesses are like that. So they're supposed to, like the trainees are supposed to practice their stone grading. And one of the ways they do that is they set up shop at gemstone fairs and shows and do free grading. And I'll tell you, you bring stuff and they don't even know what, like they're not sure what kind of stone it is. One of them says one thing, another one says another. And let's just say it's just not really, does not give me the warm fuzzy feeling that they actually know what they're doing. The last few storms unearthed the grip of awesome minerals and crystals. Yeah, you know, I bet the Jade Cove is styling right now when they have the high surf. Nobody is wondering about the flying machine in Abraham Lincoln's time. So I just didn't really know when they invented those things. And so I am wondering about it, but I can't really pin down the information. I don't think that there was supposed to be people floating around on dirigibles during that time, but they're not saying it was actually in the United States at that time right now, so you wouldn't have actually seen them in like the Civil War or something. Not yet. I will not be surprised if it shows up, so definitely keep a sharp eye. It also, the storm closed the main route from High Desert to Palm Springs. So that's the 10, right? I think you're talking about the 10. I think they've opened up the roads. You know, I don't drive on the freeways super often anymore, so I didn't really check. But they said 78 was... It's kind of weird for me, actually, that the 78 has flooded like twice in 1 year. Because I lived here over 20 years. There was never a problem with the 78. Ever. And then this year, it flooded, but they said it was due to like a faulty storm drain that went under it. I'm like, okay, faulty storm drain. Sure. But now, like, they supposedly fixed that, yet it flooded, like, massively. And we had massive El Nino rains that went on for 3 weeks before, and the freeway never flooded. So I don't know if that's, like, a weird low spot now where it didn't used to be, or there's more water around there. But it's very fishy. It's very fishy to me that the 78 has flooded. It didn't even get close to flooding ever in my whole life until twice this year. Well, we had a lot of rain, but we didn't have that much rain. Southcrest. Yeah, they said Southcrest and Mountain View. So, I mean, like a name like Southcrest, there's probably one in lots of cities, just like Mountain View, but I just didn't have one. I swear, I've never heard of it. And Mike had never heard of it. That's the tenant. And here's the thing. I mean, he's been working with the Red Cross for years, and he has lived here for a lot longer than I have, and he never heard of those places. So it is a little fishy. So I just didn't see, it rained a lot, but it's 3 inches. It's not that much. So, it seems just kind of weird. I swear it rained way more in other times that I've lived here. Elsinore, yeah, everything has shifted around here, like everything, but usually it's just shapes. Like, okay, like the 78, the way it bends is really different, and the way the roads bend. But then I'm pretty much just looking at new territory right now. More water is always a good thing. I'm just not gonna stress, the fear porn, I think there's a whole plan for it all. And how, I don't know what the plan is. There's like a spiritual plan, or that we're doing. It's not all random, and so I'm just not listening to the fear porn. I'm just gonna deal with it. Yeah, and well, more water is always good if it's not in your living room. Yeah, that's just one of the things that's interesting though, is there was this massive flooding, and oh, the poor people, and that area. I don't think I'm I won't say it didn't exist, but I'm a little suspicious of that area not existing. So, is that, are there like, are those real people, or is it just showed up and that's how it shows, and then nobody lives there because the area just flooded, and so that makes an excuse for why, nobody lives there? I mean, like, I'm just kind of wondering about that. I don't know. The rotten stench salton sea, which is way, way bigger, way bigger. This is another one. They're all, oh, it's going to dry up. It's going to dry up. It's only got a couple more years. It's like 3 times bigger now. But still, it's going to dry up. It's going to dry up. Yeah, and it wasn't like all long and stuff. Yeah, I know. For a while, there was no floating ribs in the human body. Now there are some again. What do we have? Is it one pair or 2 pairs that are floaties? All right, now I gotta look. So for me, they were all floating ribs originally. Every one of them attached at the backbone and came around the front and then ended in fingers. And they did not have that manubrium bone that goes across the front. That wasn't there. So they used to say, I'm going to crack the chest to get at the heart, because they literally would just pull those rib bones aside and you can get right in there. But now they have to cut through them and stuff. So they were all floaters, and then they kind of, that manubrium thing grew, and all of the ribs attached there now. And so there's only a couple floaters left. Let's see. But those last few floaters for me did not disappear. Okay, I think it's just the two in the back, right? Or is it 4? Is there 2 or 4? I think there was only 2, 1 on each side. I think it's this one and this one. So the ones in the, it's kind of fishy because the ones in the front, that makes it look like there's 4. The ones in the front are, that get all the way around, they're attached like with this weird cartilage contraption now. So for a while they just kind of attached on the manubrium, but then they sort of got bigger and wider, and then this cartilage business is now holding them together. So, does that count as floating? Oh yeah, there is 4 in the back, it looks like. I thought, this is another one I won't swear to. I thought there was only 2 left. This little, I don't know. I'm not sure on that. It's interesting, though, that there's just, I don't know, are these ribs coming down further? Because this cartilage business just gets more and more stretched out, and the ends of these bones get further and further away from in here. So I kind of feel like maybe the chest area that's covered by the bone has gotten wider. Because I think these used to come up over here more. Now they're way down here. 2 floaters in the back. Interesting. That's interesting that somebody was in a timeline where they're jumping back and forth, because I've been pretty much going straight. I haven't seen anything jump back and forth really obviously on the human body. It seems like it's heading in a direction. Kind of. This is interesting for me here, because it's like somebody's wearing a bow tie, like men wear a bow tie. You literally have a bow tie now, like in your body. It's kind of have to laugh at that. Well, look at how these arm bones are now. That looks like it's changed a little. It's very complex in there. Just kind of looking at it. Yeah, that's the new story. Ooh, yeah. And that's one of the things I'm going to talk about if I look. It's 12:53 and I haven't hardly covered anything. That's one of the things that I've actually got a really interesting, pretty sure it's a Mandela that kind of is like that underground water thing. Yeah, a lot of people say they remember that women had one less rib. I was never in that timeline, but I have heard that so much. People even say, "Oh, in school they had us feel our ribs," and they weren't all in like religious school. What I'm curious if any of you remember is why did they say that was the case? Because I know in the Bible they say that Adam's like or God snagged a rib out of Adam to make Eve. Okay. So I'm sure the Bible classes will say that's why. But the thing is, in my reality, just because God stole a rib out of Adam didn't mean that all of his offspring would also be missing a rib. Like if I miss a rib, like something happens and I lose a rib and I have offspring, my offspring get their full complement of ribs, right? So that was kind of the thing. Like you didn't need to be missing a rib to verify the Bible thing. Genetically, he was born with a rib and then one was taken later, but his genetic offspring would also be born normally. So, all right, the Bible people would say, okay, it's because of God. But what about the non-Bible people? What about the evolution science people? Why did they say women were missing a rib? I'm sure that they would say the story came from the fact. Like they would say the Bible story came because it was noticed that men were missing a rib. Okay, so if they would see the skeleton, men were missing a rib. Okay, God took that rib. That would be the reverse story. But what did the evolutionary people say? Like, why would there be one less rib? It's kind of weird. So that's the one thing I'm always curious about. Whenever I hear that, I just heard that on Retcon. People were talking about that. I'm like, what was the evolutionary story for the missing rib? Does anyone remember cable car in London? I have no idea. I just didn't know London. Emirates Air Line cable car London. Is that a cable car? I mean, is it new? Is it old? Emirates Air, it sounds like some fancy new United Arab Emirates thing. Okay, styling. That's not really what I think of when I think of cable cars. That's like, so like when I would go to like Marriott's Great America or one of those amusement parks, they would have these. I don't think they called them cars. They called it like some kind of lift or something like that. Because they're not like cable cars like in San Francisco. They're car-shaped on the ground and they move along the roads. So Emirates Airline. Yeah, it would be like an airlift airline. So I have no idea. I didn't know London. So you'll have to. Did London have these? It doesn't look like it's old. It looks like a new system. So did they put it in? Nicknamed the Dangleway, is a cable car linked across the River Thames in London, England, built by Doppelmayr with sponsorship from airline Emirates. The service opened on 28th June 2012, operated by Transport for London. Okay, so I don't know. Has there been a Dangleway for 14 years over the Thames? You guys tell me. I have no idea. It's definitely new-ish, though. Locals, you're gonna have to chime in on that one. Women needed another rib to protect the baby. Huh. But don't they need ribs on both? Oh, wait. Well, why would the men like not have a rib though? It kind of makes sense, but I'm like, why would a see now? My understanding was the story is that men had one less rib. Did they have one less rib on both sides, or just like unevenly, like one less rib on one side but the full rib on the other? Because I got the impression that they just like one side rib was missing, but I actually never really asked. When they say one less rib, I just assumed it was one side. Yeah, that's God used the rib to create women. That's the Bible interpretation, but I doubt that the evolutionist science people were gonna go with that. There was no explanation, huh? Nobody's been able to give me one. You know, I'm not doubting you, because I know there's a lot of weird stuff that I just accepted. Like, that's just how it is. I didn't really question, and now I question. I look back, I'm like, you know what? That does not make sense. I'm like super questioning a lot of things now. It costs more to make another rib. You know what? I've heard so many people remember that rib thing. Like, so many that I really think it's a pretty strong Mandela. Costs more to make another rib. Suddenly, human body is super stingy. I mean, they would have to come up with something. And if they couldn't come up with anything good, then they would come up with something bad. Because we see that all the time now. Like, why does this insect have, you know, a 12-inch long bangle-bongle gooby thing on his head? Oh, it attracts mates. Like, why would you be attracted to that, you know? When you really look at it, a lot of the stuff that they even use now does not make sense. Like, excuse-wise. All right, so when is that thing in the thumbnail? I've looked at the not the Salton. It's the Dead Sea. The Dead Sea, which is supposed to be rather salty, before, and they had these neat salt islands things, which I swear there's more of them now. But now they also have like this, which is these weird wiggly patterns. The story is that, the level is dropping, yet when we look on the map, the level is higher. Like, the size of the island is more than I've seen in the past. Or not the island, the size of the sea is more than I've seen in the past. So I think that's just Mandela cool stuff coming in, like we've seen so much. You know, just, I don't think it's a coincidence. It looks really awesome looking and cool. These islands, I've had this island on before. It looks like it's gotten a little larger. I'm still not convinced this tree is alive, because every photo, it's the exact same shape and has no leaves. So I'm pretty sure somebody just jammed it in there. At least for this timeline, that's the case. I don't know if... See, it just looks like somebody's jammed it in there and smooshed the salt over it. Down the line, that thing might show up with leaves on it. See, and it's all pruned. It looks like somebody just got that off the mainland and yanked it, slammed it in there. It's never has grown a single new branch. But this looks like bigger now. And then we have all these. So these are along the shore more. I mean, look at the edge there. That's like a huge salt, like, I have not seen anything like this before, actually. So with the whole shoreline is just salt now on the Dead Sea, apparently. So they're saying it's because the water's receding, but I'm not buying it. I think it's how we... That's so awesome looking. It's how we see so many things showing up. There's some of them. I mean, it's so awesome looking. The old days when the water receded, you just ended up with like a ratty shoreline. But now you get you get styling islands and all kinds of visually appealing, interesting stuff. This is also interesting here. We're getting a lot more angles on view of these too. There was just like a certain angle that you could see everything before. All right, so the other thing, didn't we just look at the Dead Sea not long ago? Did it look like that? I'm like confused. I think there was a little bit of this center outcrop here. Okay, so there's the map. I don't remember this all in here like this. All right, and this side now has all these lines in there because they're like farming salt, I guess. But supposedly they've been doing that for at least 10 years. So I should have seen all this on the map like 6 months ago when I was going over the Salt Islands. Look, see, there's a lot more of them. And it wasn't like that. And they're not saying that's new. So I think that there's definitely been some alterations in the Dead Sea. Kind of interesting that it's right there. Let's see. Let me just see if I can get there. Ugh, it wants me to sign in. We're not doing that. Okay, here we go. All right, so this is 1972. We still have this giant thing here. Looks like a big boot. I just don't remember anything that large. I don't remember it being split that much. Then in 89, they put in all this farming and stuff. So they basically, there's all these little berms or something that are running along here. And then since 2011, it looked like that. So that's looked like that since 2011. So there's hardly any sea there at the Dead Sea. This is just strange to me. I just don't remember it looking like that at all. Since 2011. And even since 89 here. And yeah, no, that was like last year I looked at it. All right, so Dead Sea changes. Yep. Skull has changed for you. Rudy, in what way? There's been a lot of changes. I have not seen any huge ones lately. It's almost like we kind of made it. I mean, we just did Dead Sea not that long ago. I've done Dead Sea a bunch of times because there's that thing where the fresh water was showing up at the Dead Sea, which used to be a prediction for the end times, that the Dead Sea would have fresh water. Interesting. I wonder if that's still a thing. If the Dead Sea having fresh water, is it still a prediction? Dead Sea fresh water end times. And there was all these articles like, is this the end times because the Dead Sea has fresh water? The prophet Ezekiel foresaw a time when the Dead Sea's toxic water would be transformed into a fresh river of life flowing from the throne of God. This water flows toward the eastern region, goes down to Arabah, where it enters the Dead Sea. When it empties into the sea, the salty water there becomes fresh. Swarms of living creatures will live where the river flows. There will be large numbers of fish because the water flows there and makes the salt water fresh. All right, so I thought it was in the Bible, though, so I think this might have... Okay, Ezekiel, that is the Bible, right? Ezekiel... This is interesting, though. I don't remember all of this flows down to the Arabah. I just remember it was a kind of a cryptic thing that the Dead Sea will have fresh water. There wasn't like all the specificity. So that's interesting. You know, I'm not finding... Let me go to Google. Lately, some of the other search engines have sucked extra bad. All right. Dead Sea fresh water. Is this the end times? Because there was a whole bunch of articles. Now, there does not seem to be a lot of them. The alleged discovery of the freshwater pools has some claiming the fulfillment of end times prophecies, while others dispute. Okay, so their story is the sea is receding and the sinkholes have been filling up with fresh water. That's actually pretty bizarre, though. I mean, like, if the whole water table around there is salty water, then why would their fresh water just, like, show up around the edges? I mean, all of that dirt has to be, like, super saturated with salt, too. So how would you not, like, have any water that did get on it be fresh? And then how'd the fish get in there? Like, where did they come from? Scientific research has proven the existence of life at the bottom of the Dead Sea. One day, that living water will flow out of Jerusalem, half to the Dead Sea and the other half to the Mediterranean Sea. This will happen for the summer as well as winter. So their story is the origin of the fresh water has to be from a certain location or it doesn't count. I don't know. I'm not sure, but I feel like that's shifted a little bit. Like the prophecy has gotten a little more specific. Can't find any info online whatsoever. Google only shows what it is programmed. Yeah, I will generally agree with you, but some of this stuff wouldn't be worth hiding, and you still can't find it. So I think it also just sucks. Or maybe it's some kind of Mandela thing, like, you know, everything is so shifty that's interfering with the functionality of even what's available to you. I don't know. There's apparently a WikiLeaks going on where they're changing UFO definition thingy on all Wikipedia. Like, how are they changing it? Barbie movie was so weird. Don't know what they were even thinking. I did not watch it. It just didn't... Yeah, there's supposedly fish at the bottom of Dead Sea, though. Okay, wait. I'm pretty sure I remember there being fish at the bottom of Dead Sea. Let's look. Okay. Fish at bottom of Dead. Again, that begs the question, like, how did they get there then? The fountains of life found at the bottom of the Dead Sea. There is no... Alright. Scientific American. 2011! No. That was not a thing in 2011. It was really just a little before the pandemic. Certainly long after I knew about the Mandela. For years, ripples at the surface of the Dead Sea hinted there was something mysterious going on beneath its salt-laden waters. But in a lake where accidentally swallowing the water while diving could lead to near-instant asphyxiation, no one was in a hurry to find out what it might be. Come on, they would be in a hurry to find out what it would be. This year, some intrepid divers changed that, stumbling onto geological and biological treasure, capturing it on video. Of course, there's no video. Lowest point on Earth. Biologists have known since the 1930s that the lake is not dead yet. Instead, it's full of microbes. Okay. Archaea, which is like the third type of life now, is Archaea. It didn't exist when I was a child, but... Divers from Israel and Germany finally braved the waters this year. Just in 2011. They never went down there until 2011. Yeah, right. This is what they found. All right. Did they find any fish? That's what I want to know. Let's go to the good parts. All right, so what? Freshwater plants. I don't see any fishies, though. Wait, what was that? Freshwater springs. The springs roil in the waters. They flow into the phantasmal... into a phantasmal slipstream. Because it's less salty. Bacterial mats. All right, it doesn't say anything about fish, so maybe not. Of course, that was 2011. Let's see. New life forms have been found. I thought that there was some talk of fish under there, though. It's not helpful. Okay, let's see what this is. What lives at the bottom of the ocean? We don't want that. Chemistry. Life forms. Biofilms. All right, yeah, there's no fish right now. I do remember there being fish down there, though. But not right now. So this might be one where I went a little backwards. No fishies. You know you're going to get some fish sooner or later, though. You know it's coming. See, now there's that image again. That's that same one. Now, the Red Sea has life, doesn't it? Maybe if there's linked to the Red Sea, is the current story. maybe they can say it bubbles up from, yeah, I don't know. You can go on forever about this. No more new Christmas movies. I don't know. All right, but you're right, Shari. There is not currently any fish in there. I do remember them. So I think what I remember was that they were saying that they've been spotted. Like people have spotted fish, but they didn't have like it on video or anything. So maybe that's it. It could even still be that way, but that would be a whole long. So okay, let me go to hopefully Reddit is up. Knock on wood. So speaking of underground waters, I have some stuff saved. Oh, maybe I didn't actually save it. Okay. I found this, though. I found it somewhere. I didn't save it, really? Oh, yes, I did save it here. Amazon River. So now the story is that there, under the Amazon River, is another whole river. Like, separated by dirt and stuff. And they're calling it Rio Hamza is the unofficial name. But I guess if everybody's going to call it Rio Hamza, then that's the name of it. An underground river has now been discovered beneath the mighty Amazon River, flowing miles below the surface. Scientists detected this river after they analyzed data from 241 wells that Brazilian oil company Petrobras drilled in the Amazon region in the 70s and 80s. The river was unofficially named Hamza by scientists. Thermal signatures of groundwater suggest the Hamza flows west to east just like the Amazon, and that it flows under the Amazon, and it flows at a depth of 13,000 feet. Computer simulations suggest that at higher depth, about 2,000 feet, the river actually flows vertically. I don't even understand what that means. I guess it's just water, like, I don't know. Like it's like water coming down and then flowing along there. Much less water flows down the Hamza than the Amazon. And the reason for that is because it supposedly flows like super, super slow. Water also crawls more slowly down the Hamza with like speeds of 33 to 330 feet per year. So it's just crawling along. I wonder if this is... I'm really suspicious that it's going to change and speed up and stuff. So basically, it's kind of like this weird aquifer that's just long and skinny river. It's supposed to be about... Actually, not really skinny, because it's supposed to be like 4 times fatter than the Amazon. But it's almost as long as the Amazon. 3,800 miles. It's 125 to 250 miles wide compared to the Amazon's 0.6 to 60 miles. The Hamza might not be the only such subterranean flow. It's possible that underground river systems of a similar kind exist in other parts of the earth. So now there are 3 kinds of river. The normal rivers and tributaries. The atmospheric rivers, where large amounts of water vapor flow through the local air, which is supposedly what we just got that caused all of the local flooding. And then the third kind, apparently, is the subterranean rivers. I think it's pretty bizarre that it's under the regular river, though. So I've said before that the storyline of all this water down in the crust is likely showing up harder and harder, and here we go. So now there's a whole nother river. You just got to drill down that far, but you know, hey, say what if it comes up in spots and then comes back down, then you wouldn't have to drill as far. You just figure it out. So if you look this up, the other thing that was interesting is So, actually, I should look at when was that even written? See, because they're saying those wells were drilled in the 70s and 80s, okay? Okay, and in 2011, this thing was written, so... Everything happened in 2011 now, did it? All right. Right before the end of the Mayan calendar, they supposedly discovered this. I'm very suspicious. So there's not a lot on it, and most of the stuff that is on it is in Spanish. But actually, I want to go to Google. Google has better image search, especially lately. Hamza River. You look up the images, you see all of these styling, like, I mean, I would guess that they just grab that anywhere, but they make it look like that's the Hamza River, right? Underground river, Rio Hamza discovered 40 kilometers below the Amazon. And they have all these images of people supposedly in this underground river. But yet I can't find any info about them going down there and actually like stepping around on that. So did they just grab in random images to make it look styling? But I'm really suspicious that this is going to be like a walkable cave river down the line. Let me see if this is the one.
Hello, everyone.
Ugh, I hate those videos. Okay. Let me just go here. So when I was at home, there was a whole bunch of links to the Spanish-speaking website. But then when I clicked on it, it just wouldn't work. It wouldn't work with my computer. Because I can speak, like, you know, I can read some Spanish. Like, I can read enough to figure out what in the bleeps is going on overall. And it wouldn't load. So I'm like, I'm going to come over here to the shop. And I'm going to load that. And then I'm going to read it. But now, of course, I can't find it. ZME Science. I don't think it was that. No. It's not here. Yeah, there's no sign of it now. Typical. It made me very curious, though, because that's kind of how they roll in. You know, you some kind of really cagey website, and you can't figure out where the info came from, and that's the exact kind of website. Now I can't even find the website. I only did this search like a couple hours ago, but now it's completely different search results. And it was weird because, like, there was 10 images on here that all went back to that same Hamza River. So, I don't know. I don't see it now. But something's going on with those rivers. There's no way they knew 70s and 80s. They found it in 2011 that there's a river under the river. Just as long as the river. So, I'm really, really suspicious that this is going to be like a cave thing that we can go down in there. And man, I want to go down there when that happens. So, you know, what happened was it would come up and then it would say, you know, when you click on a little button, read more. But when I clicked on the little button, it would just go back to the top. It wouldn't let me read more. And you couldn't read like a lot because there was like a big image and then a little bit of writing. And then I could read enough Spanish to go, oh, the Hamza River runs below the regular river at blah, blah depth and blah, blah, blah. And it looked like there was a whole bunch more to the website, but I couldn't get any of it to load. So, Amazon, isn't that... I don't know why they would write it. I don't know. There's a whole huge write-up. There was obviously a lot of images on that, too. And I could see a bunch of them on Google, but now I don't see them at all, of course. Anyway, it's pretty exciting, these giant underground rivers. And we've seen so many caves show up, and then they just get bigger and bigger, and they have their own atmosphere, and they have their own clouds, and, Yeah, none of that was there before, guys. Not anyway. All right, so there's that. You know what? I'm going to have to go back to... Well, let me just do these other ones. This one is also very interesting. So, if you know the Tartaria stories, if you follow them at all, one of the things that sort of started showing up in the lore and the conspiracy theory and the theories was this concept that a lot of the old stonework was somehow vitrified, like it was burnt so much, and this is stone, that it melted, which doesn't really happen normally because the requirement, it's even hard to melt brick, okay, and you're talking about like solid stone. But so then images started showing up of stuff that kind of looked melted, right? Maybe. But apparently now they actually have official vitrified stone forts. Like, it's a thing that is accepted by science. And they have, I'm like, what? So here it is that supposedly that the stone was put in and then they have this weird vitrified, like it's cobbled together with this melted stuff. I was looking at this last week and I couldn't find much info. Like, well, what's the melted stuff? Let me see if it even says here. Vitrified forts are stone enclosures whose walls have been subject to vitrification through heat. It was long thought that these structures were unique to Scotland, but they have since been identified in several other parts of Western and Northern Europe. Vitrified forts are generally situated on hills, offering strong defensive positions. Okay, so they're talking about, like, weak parts of the defense are strengthened by double or triple walls and occasionally vast lines of ramparts composed of large blocks of unhewn and unvitrified stones envelop the vitrified center at some distance from it. Does that even make sense? The walls themselves are termed vitrified ramparts. No lime or cement has been found in any of these structures, all of them presenting the peculiarity of being more or less consolidated by the fusion of the rocks of which they are built. See, that doesn't really make sense to me. I mean, I'm looking at this picture, and this rock does not look like it was melted at all, and it looks like some other weird melted stuff then was dripped in there somehow, or... Like, these aren't molten. They have, you know, sharp edges and stuff. They're not melted at all. So what is this black stuff? And if this was melted stone, then why is this a different color? Like, it looks like some kind of glass stuff to me. So it looks like they're saying that these stones were melted and created that. But yet the color is different. These stones don't look melted. So that's why I'm, like, so confused. Like, it looks like some kind of mortar or plaster that involves some kind of melting. But yet this stuff is not gooped over this either. You know, like, why isn't this dripping down then on this side? Like, I don't get it. The fusion, which has been caused by the application of intense heat, is not equally complete in the various forts, or even in the walls of the same fort. In some cases, stones are only partially melted and calcined. What does that even mean? A thermal treatment of solid chemical compound, whereby the compound is raised to a high temperature without melting under a restricted supply of ambient oxygen. So what now they're claiming they did it by blocking oxygen. In others, their adjoining edges are fused so that they firmly cement. So I guess that black stuff is calcined. In others, they cement together. In many instances, pieces of rock are enveloped in a glassy enamel-like coating, which binds them into a uniform form. Okay, so that's the glassy enamel-like coating. That's what I just clicked on. And at times, though rarely, the entire length of the wall presents one solid mass of vitreous substance. It's not clear why or how the walls were subject to vitrification. Some antiquarians... What is that? Was that like a historian? Aficionado or student of antiquities. Those who study history with a peculiar attention to ancient artifacts. Alright. Isn't that an archaeologist? Okay. Having argued that it was done to strengthen the wall, but the heating actually weakens the structure. Battle damage is also unlikely to be the cause, as the walls are thought to have been subjected to carefully maintained fires to ensure that they were not hot enough so that... Wait a minute. Battle damage is unlikely to be the cause, as the walls are thought to have been subjected to carefully maintained fires to ensure that they were hot enough for vitrification to take place. Okay, so they're saying it can't be battle damage because it has to be carefully done. The expert consensus explains vitrified forts as the product of deliberate destruction, either following the capture of the site by an enemy force or by the occupants at the end of its active life as an act of ritual closure. Ugh. The process has no chronological significance and is found both during Iron Age and early medieval forts in Scotland. So, fragments of vitrified wall. Okay, that does look a little more vitrified, I guess, because you do see some kind of melted oop there. That's weird. Some of it melted, but then this is all normal. The whole thing is pretty bizarre. So anyway, the whole storyline about this vitrification melted stone is now accepted mainstream science that's been known for a bajillion years. Blows my mind. Because it just sounded like a bunch of hoo-ha, and now it's just normal. Search for pumpkin toadlets, the frog that can't jump. Alright, pumpkin toadlets. Let's check it out. We don't need the music. What? That's weird. Oh, were they flicking them? So they can jump, but they can't land, I guess? They can jump, but they can't land. Their main survival tactic to avoid being eaten doesn't involve high-speed getaways, but rather staying in one place and being as unappetizing as possible. Their inner ear system of these frogs is so tiny that they lose balance mid-air. So if you lose balance, then you come frozen like a frozen possum. So they're trying to act dead, I guess. That is pretty weird. So they jump, but they can't land. Yeah, this is pretty bizarre. I have to agree. Pumpkin toadlets. All right, here they... One more try. Here we go. Wouldn't you get hurt? It just doesn't... Why don't you just land and then look dead? Okay, whatever. Let's not expect anything to make any sense anymore. Frogs have problems. I'm so hungry. My pizza is calling me. You know what? I'm like super hungry right now. I don't know. I guess I just didn't eat that much today, but really, usually I won't really even notice that till later. I was like super tired today too. Yesterday, I was super spry. I got a whole bunch of work done. It seems like that's it. I build up I build up until I'm super spry, and then the next day I'm going to be really tired. I keep trying to figure out, I mean, there's definitely things I can do to improve the whole process, but I haven't been able to halt that process. Like, I just want to be spry all the days, not just sometimes. We've made progress, but there's still ways to go. All right, that's interesting. Pumpkin froglets, is that what it was? Okay. Maybe I'll finish these. All right. Palpa. I'm kind of spaced out. All right. Palpa geoglyphs. I've had these on a bunch of times, but they just keep updating. So right near Nazca, there's these other geoglyphs that are even better than Nazca geoglyphs, except for some reason nobody ever cared about them until recently. So when these first showed up, they said, oh, well, you know, they're so faint, but then our, you know, fancy camera processing image processor is able to see them, and that's why you didn't know about them, because of that. But now they're just really strongly etched and you can totally see them, and for some reason just nobody did. Oh, using drones have discovered more than 25 geoglyphs etched in the swath of coastal desert. Like, there were no, like, airplanes or anything before this. You had to wait for the drones to be invented. Includes a figure of a killer whale and a woman dancing. Have appeared to be made by the Paracas culture. So the Paracas culture are the ones with those weird cone-headed heads. Hundreds of years before the Nazca, people created similar giant drawings nearby. An additional 25 geoglyphs that have been previously spotted by local residents have also been mapped with drones. So nobody could get out there until now. In total, we're talking about 1,200 years in which geoglyphs were produced. Okay, so let's look at these styling geoglyphs, shall we? I'm going to go to Google because their image search is better. Okay, so quite obviously, these are a whole nother thing. All right, so there's this eyeballs and head one. This guy's got antennas or big hair. Who the heck knows? Here's another puffy hair guy, but doesn't have the... Look at all those. They're so much stronger than the Nazca ones. And there's no more talk of it being, like, subtle and faded. Giant kitty cat. I think I've had this one on before. It looks a little nicer than last time I looked. It's a kitty cat dinosaur. This one is definitely way deeper than it was before last time when I looked at it. It looks a little... What's this little square thing down? That wasn't down there last time. So yeah, they've been on before, but continual upgrades on these Palpa geoglyphs. I'm seeing some more ones than I saw last time. Like, I don't remember that guy having like 2 squares. I don't remember this boob person. I don't know what's going on with the feet, or is that boobs or what? I don't remember that one and that one. So there's a lot more now. What's this one? What is that thing? What is that thing? So these are like way nicer than the Nazca one. So basically this is Nazca 2.0. All right, get rid of these frogs. That one I've had on. This one, I'm pretty sure I have not had this one on. What, we're not going to get it? Look at that. I click on it. Oh, there's the photo. Okay, that's that one. Where's the other one? Here. The heck is this? Killer whale. And what is that? Like a little embryo or something? I don't even know if you can say this is a killer whale for sure. We had that one. All right, so what we've got, like a giant gorilla and a bent over human. And what's going on with these arms? I don't know what's going on with that one. It looks undone too. Look, there's is there the two legs together, but there's no foot. Yet the head is done quite nicely. Little aliens. Whole bunch of lines. Have no idea what that is. Oh, okay. Some kind of fish and 3 guys. I mean, there's a bajillion of these things. There's that killer whale again. There's a better view of the killer whale. All right, so what's going on? I don't know why they assume this is a killer whale. I mean, it's vaguely reminiscent of a killer whale, but... So why are they so strong in... I mean, they're more graded in there than the road is. You'd think they'd be kind of washed out and stuff. So, try to remember... Okay, that's, I think, is still the Nazca there. Alright, so it looks like that's the majority. So, they said they found, like, what, hundreds of images, but I'm only seeing, like, 5. So... 5 or 10 images. So, I think there's more coming. Alright, there's an interesting one. Looks like it eats a person or something and then poops them out. That's interesting. It's kind of like some weird drug trip or something. All right, so what? Now we've got to up to like 15 of them. Nazca and Palpa lines. That's that monkey. That one is on Nazca. All right. So anyway, yes, the new the new Nazca lines have shown up nicely. Nazca 2.0 is looking styling. I kind of wanted to look at the figures because I was like, okay, is this going to be an indicator of the future? What, is it going to mean anything, or is it? I just kind of feel like these lines, these things show up in the timeline maybe for a reason. I don't know. So these are all the ones except for that skinny monkey and a few at the end there. Those are all Palpa lines that didn't exist until recently for me. Donkey Kong. That one gorilla did look like Donkey Kong. Look at how slow this is going. I don't know if this is a YouTube problem or is it my computer causing all. It has been a while since I rebooted, so I will do that after this. All right, this is not a Mandela. My gosh, look at 1 hour and 48 minutes. Today has gone so fast, and I don't think it's stopped. I really don't feel like I've talked that long. I feel like I've only talked an hour most. This is so bizarre. It's not a Mandela, but it is just so bizarre that I want to put it on here anyway. So I guess at the World Economic Forum, they had this shaman woman going around giving ritual blessings, and and the blessings she gives sound exactly like she's coughing on people, which, I mean, like, are you serious? After this whole COVID thing, you've got this woman going around coughing on people. All right, let's see if I hope they have sound on here. I've left the sound on. Let me just check OBS to make sure the sound is on. Yeah. All right, it should come up. All right, so it's not a perfect cough, but it just seems pretty weird. She's basically doing a weird huffing thing right on their forehead. Look, no masks, nothing. But she looks like she has a mask on. It's a red mask, but she's got, like... So, I mean, like, what are the odds, okay? She's got a mask on, and there's like a... It's a, you know, a paint mask. And then it looks like there's lines across her eyes, like kind of reminiscent of goggles or something. You can see that. I'm like, is this symbolic or what? I just feel like so trolled after all of this baloney that she's kind of huffing on everybody. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. But yeah, the pandemic is real. You can't make this stuff up. Yeah, she's got a painted red on there. So it's supposed to be like the ritual shamanic colors. It's not supposed to be a mask. She's supposed to be, let's see, what is the story? The shaman, Putani. I'm like, Putani Yawa Nawa. Come on. I just feel so trolled. The first woman of the Yawa Nawa tribe in the Amazon to become a shaman performed a shamanic ritual. After uttered some invocations while rubbing her hands, the indigenous representative blew the heads of the participants, including the managing director. And somebody was questioning them because they were like Christian. They're like, what is this? Before performing the shamanic ritual, Putani emphasized that we can join our hands, unite our hearts, unite our thoughts in the same direction for the healing of the planet and spiritual healing. Yeah, they said no shaking hands during the pandemic, but we're joining our hands. It's so weird. I don't know. I just saw that on some other show, and I'm like, this is so weird. You know, I didn't even think of it the time that she had the paint mask on, but now that I'm looking at it, I thought of that too. Bizarre. It's bizarre land. You can't make this stuff up. Ready for disease X. It could be anything you want. It's disease X. Oh, you know, will it come from the formerly known as Twitter location? Will be disease X. Actually, now that I'm thinking about that, you can't make this stuff up. Now even Ebola has 100%. What? Ebola did not have 100% fatality rate last time I looked. It had used to be 100% way back. Ebola. Spell it properly. Last I checked, it was down to like 10% or something. Fever. Let's see. It kills between 25 and 90% of those infected, about 50. Whoa. Death is often due to, okay, so that's gone back up. I think it was down to like 10%. 25 to 90%. Okay, it was not 90%, but that's a huge range. 25 to 90%. The virus spreads through direct contact with body fluids. All right, so just don't touch anybody or other animals, or from contact with items that have been recently contaminated with infected body fluids. Recently contaminated. No documented cases of spread through air has been. That's interesting. Okay. So it's not, I do not recall that being so difficult to transmit before. So it's gone up, I think, possibly since last time in death, but now it does not sound very transmissible. Basically, if you actually followed those guidelines for the COVID, you should be all right. Like, don't touch anything. Interesting. Onset, bleeding, recovery, cause, virology. Initial case, reservoir. All right, they have a vaccine for it. Appears to be fully effective. Okay, so it doesn't seem to be as much of a threat now, though. You can basically hole up in your house and don't touch anything. You'll be totally fine. You can go to the grocery store, but be careful what you touch. Disease X from Twitter X. It is not possible to manipulate genes with shot in the arm. That is actually, well, officially, the AstraZeneca does result in new genetics into the nucleus of the cell. And that is official fact that it is incorporated into the nucleus. Now, it is not supposedly, it goes into the area where your DNA is, but supposedly it stays separate in its own little bundle next to your DNA. But it goes into the nucleus with the DNA, and it is its own DNA. So that's the AstraZeneca. Then with the RNA, there have been some doctors that have shown reverse transcriptase activity on the RNA vaccines. So reverse transcriptase is so when you have DNA, it's the RNA is created from the DNA, and then the RNA codes for proteins and stuff. But reverse transcriptase does the reverse, where it codes back into DNA. So they have found some activity with reverse transcriptase altering DNA with the RNA vaccine. So is that totally legit or not? I don't think mainstream it's been talked about much, but it hasn't been debunked either. So I'm just kind of, waiting to see how that narrative plays along. But it's not impossible because of reverse transcriptase. Let me just show you. I mean, this has been shown. So when you say it's impossible, that's not true. So it gets pretty complicated because they're like, not everything can be, reverse transcriptase apparently doesn't work on all aspects of DNA, but reverse transcriptase is an enzyme used to generate complementary DNA from an RNA template, a process termed reverse transcription. Reverse transcriptases are used by viruses such as HIV and hepatitis B to replicate their genomes by retrotransposon mobile genetic elements to proliferate within the host genome. So, yes, it can be done. Anyway, you got to watch the anti anything talk on here because YouTube's gotten like soup Nazis. So, you know, of course we have to say it's safe and effective, blah, 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 blah. We're good boys, all that. We would never say anything to go against our WEF and CDC overlords. Okay, aerial view. Okay, did that one. WEF, Palpa. All right, I got all those done. And I got like 1 minute left, so I guess that does mean I got to go. Remember, it's safe and effective. Hate to say it, but I don't want this whole show taken down, so I gotta follow certain scriptures. Soup Nazis, yeah, there. Everyone is going to turn into an extraterrestrial alien. I don't know. I mean, like, we're kind of like, you know, the Mandela itself. There's been a lot of weird changes, so you don't have to look at the shots for all the explanations. Maybe the shots are just an excuse, but they're not the real cause. Maybe something else is causing all of it. All right, anyway, I gotta run. That was like, I swear that was an hour-long show, but it's 2 o'clock already. So that's how this whole day has gone. This whole day has been insanely fast. And anyways, thank you all for coming. Very much appreciated. Love you all. This is Eva signing off for Once Upon a Timeline. And stream. And.